we've been documenting these things as just an opportunity for us to just share findings from the things that we're working on across our businesses and our portfolio, and ultimately like use them as training, like historical artifacts that we can review and log, look at transcripts and like, hey, what did we do here that led to these outcomes? And so last month, one of our first brand in our portfolio crossed over $1 million in cash collected, which was like an absolutely epic month. And it was just so cool to see that happen because we've been working with that brand, and when we started taking them on, they were doing $80K a month and struggling.
Yeah, no, struggling for sure. That was our first blue chip client, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our first blue chip client.
First blue chip client we took on, and first to do over $1 million in a month. So a lot kind of went up to that. That really made it happen. It was like a team effort across the board. So we knew we were going to be able to do $1 million in a month back in December.
Right. Yep.
So December was like $500,000 or close to 500K. And then we did the projections and we're like, all right, well, in order for us to do $1 million in a month, here is what needs to happen in order to make that possible. Right. Actually, the goal was like to do 500K a month. So we're like, worst case scenario, this is what it's going to take for us to do 500K in a month. And I've gone through our forecast calculator before, but this is the actual forecast. Like I haven't changed it since December. So worst case scenario was 500K a month, sustaining that. And then I would update expected based on how the team is performing. And so we're like, expected if the team closes at a 35% clip and we get like 55% of the leads to actually show up, we could do over $1 million. And so what actually ended up happening is this was at I think it was a 59%. So it's about 59% show rate there. And so what ended up happening is they actually ended up collecting 1.1 million last month. But this has always been like the target that we set. So worst case scenario, average price was $8K. Sales team just needs to close. KPI was 25%. So we set worst case scenario to 20%. And show rate needs to be 50%. But the average actual expected show rate was like 55%. Sales conversion was about 35%. So we just discounted those down a little bit. And we're like, well, if we hit these targets and these numbers stay where they are, we need to be spending about 140K a month to actually do this. Right. And last month we ended up spending 160.
Yeah, 162, I think it was 163.
Yeah, it's like $162,000 to do that. But you can see like we weren't too far off. Right.
We were pretty close.
Ad spend was a little bit off, but we baked in like we have a 20% margin of error here is what I essentially baked in, but everything else is like damn near spot on. So it's like one of those things where in order for us to hit the target, so we ended up doing over $1 million in collected, and this was a baseline that we set back in December. We're like, all right, well, the goal was to get to $1 million a month by Q2. So first baseline is like, what was it going to take to get the 500K a month? What are the targets that we need to hit? What is the ad spend that we need to plan based on our current cost for booking? And then from there, just like, all right, now you have your marching order is we need to get ad spend to over 100K, 150K a month. And the booking needs to be within KPI.
Right. And so when we did these projections back in late December, early January, we were not going to be able to do that with the current structure of how the ad accounts were set up. So it needed to be simplified. So told you guys, hey, like we're going to get there, but it's going to take a few weeks of less so I can get more. Right. So for like a good month, it was about simplifying and getting rid of stuff so I could bring it to other campaigns and make this only a 1 or 2 campaign. Cause at that time there was like 8. Right. I'm not going to be able to scale with you because there's just too much stuff happening here. we got to get rid of stuff. So the bookings.
And then it's funny
technically-
because in December when we're having this conversation, right? We're like, you are aggressively reducing and simplifying the account.
I was doing it already because I knew the
Right.
numbers we wanted to get to.
Yep. So you were aggressively doing that, but you weren't as aggressively reallocating it. So that's why
That's what
pressure
it
was
felt
being
like.
applied because we weren't on track. We're like, hey, we set these projections and we're off track, right?
Right. So the booking costs was in KPI where I got
Yep.
it to because we were like 220, 215. I'm like, to get that 140, like this needs to be simplified so it could be running more efficient.
Yeah.
So I got it to that, but the volume wasn't there yet. So I was like, hey, like we're within KPI, which we wanted to. We're spending $60 less per booking, but the volume wasn't there. I was like, well, like we have to do small increments every single day so we can keep that efficiency and cost. But then you guys were like, I need more. I need more. I'm like, I can't push more because if we push more, you're gonna feel it in a different way than what you're feeling it now. So I needed about a month to get back.
The beautiful thing about having these conversations is that we got the historical milestones. You know, it's funny. And the mistake that we made in January, there's two mistakes. One was not reallocating spend as aggressively, right?
Which was on
And
purpose, not because I didn't want to do it. Yeah.
And then two, and then you also didn't communicate that, right?
Yes,
Because
the
we had already
communication.
had our
Yeah.
so technically three mistakes. So one, reallocating spend not as aggressively, not communicating the changes that you were making in the ads manager because we had already set those targets beforehand. So you were making changes, but you didn't tell anybody you were making those changes. And so we weren't aware that the downstream effect of those changes would be less volume, albeit you got the money being spent more efficiently, right? But the trade-off of that was less volume, and we didn't update our projections and our targets based on that. So
I was like
now-
incognito mode by myself. I'm like doing these ninja tricks, getting everything so damn cheap and efficient. I'm like, I just forgot to tell anybody that I was doing it.
yeah, so we're sitting there operating based on the projection that we set. We all agreed this was going to be the target for January and what we're going to be working towards for Q1. But then you also started to see the campaigns were performing out of KPI, and you needed to get the cost down in order to get it within KPI. So that was happening in the silo. And so because of that, we made some changes, some aggressive changes, like January 22nd. Like I still have the date marked.
That's the date. Yeah.
That's the day when when we were like, hey, you know what? I think we can afford to like take a calculated risk here. We actually ended up closing out January at $573K. So we actually shouldn't have made any of the changes that we ended up making. But January 22nd, we're like, you know what? We need to make a shift. And so it was on the 23rd is when we doubled the spend.
It was like around 12 o'clock. I still remember the goddamn freaking.
We doubled the spend because we're like, you know what? Like everything's performing within KPI. These campaigns are producing results. All the gurus are saying you can dramatically increase spend with the Andromeda update, and it's not that big of a deal. So we double spend. And then what proceeded to happen from there? So we were like the 23rd to.
It was about a good 2 weeks of.
So from there, I mean, we closed out January still good because we didn't feel the effects of the changes that we made right away. But in February, we definitely started to feel it. Right. And in February ended up being at like, we closed out February at 461,000. And the issues there was now we backed ourselves into a corner. We doubled the spend, and that was affecting all the other campaigns that weren't tied to it. And then where it had to essentially go, hey guys, and I had to let the team know, it's going to suck for the next 2 weeks, but we're not touching a damn thing. Like we just got to let the campaigns ride it out because it went out of learning. It went back into learning mode.
Dick out.
All right. So went into learning mode. And then what we had to do in that break actually gave us the ability on the sales side for me to work with their sales manager and go, all right, well, what are the things that we need to improve while we have the volume low? What are the things that the sales team can start working on to improve? So we implemented a sales tool, that assessment tool. We made some adjustments to their sales scripts, the offer presentation, and we started working on really drilling and improving their sales process as a whole so that the sales team can perform at a higher clip. So the forced delay turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we got to slow down. And in February, instead of complaining about the fact that the volume isn't where it needed to be, which we did do for a little bit, and the sales team was like really bitching and moaning about it. We focus everyone to focus on like how to improve the sales process. How do we start to help the closers build more credibility during the sales process and really create a mini transformation and a really great sales experience for the clients that are, for the people that are booking calls, right? So that gave you the runway that you needed to start to, one, we had to stop messing with the campaigns and let it get out of learning mode. Soon as it got out of learning mode, then we could start implementing and continuing adjusting the campaigns to get them back on track.
Yeah, that actually forced us to be a little bit more cautious. One, on how I scale campaigns, which I know how to do, obviously. But the second thing is we did pull some levers, some reactivation plays to try to get some volume. Remember, we ran a couple of reactivation plays to help out with the bleeding that we were feeling for those 2 weeks. And then not only that, but we started another ad account. Everything the same, except it was just a different ad account. And that ad account, I still remember the day that
it's humming. Like
we at 150 a day. I've been raising $10 a day every day. And now I'm at 960. It'll cross 1,000 by the end of the weekend. So on 150, if you just have good stuff, it's producing, and you just put a rule, just stop touching shit. You put $10. There's $10 because I literally did this with Tony on our call before this. $10. Let it alone. By the time you look at this next month, you'll be like, "Holy crap! I doubled or tripled my ad spend." Now that thing hums like at $100. It just keeps going, and you just keep putting little budgets every single day, little filler in there, little filler. So that one, it just maybe in the next month or two, it'll be at like 3,000 or whatever it is per day.
Yeah.
So it just keeps going up. It keeps going up. So that's the way, obviously, we like to scale campaigns. But yeah, that forced us to do that. Forced us to do 2 reactivation plays to try to get some bookings with it. And then it forced you and the sales team to make the sales process more efficient, to get them better. The sales reps, even though it was bad from like bookings and volume, but the good, in my opinion, outweighed the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like everyone got on the same page. We unblocked the communication gaps. So it was like downstream effect of what's happening within marketing, within the ads manager communicates across the board. So everyone's on the same page as far as expectations. And then couple that with ads starting to get back on track in terms of KPI and volume, and couple that with adjustments made to the sales process. It created a perfect storm for what happened in March, right? Which was absolutely insane because now we are back on track in terms of volume. But then the team was actually outperforming what was expected in terms of sales conversion. So now we got volume and sales conversion above KPI. And the result was 1.1 million cash collected for this fitness brand. And the cool thing was, based on the forecasting that we set back in December, right? It was exactly what we were expecting. So the goal was like, worst case scenario, we could do 500K a month.
Yeah, which we were just short of that the previous month.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the team's closing at 20%, and we got a 50% show rating, right? So if the team can perform and close above 30%, and we got our show rate closer to 60%, off the same ad spend, we can do over $1 million, right? And so we ended up spending about $160K or something like that, and then collecting 1.1 million off 160K, which is still
Crazy.
insane, you know. Um,
But the fact that we more than doubled in less than 30 days from February to March,
yeah,
doubled. It's
yeah. So
crazy.
that's absolutely insane. And then the reason why it was important that we planned that out is because in December when we're making planning for Q1, we're like, well, if we were going to worst case scenario, take the business from where it is at right now, which is about 250 to 300K a month to 500K a month, right? What starts to break downstream if we're to do that?
Mhm.
And the first thing that once they worked out how many new clients that would be per month, they were like, hey, we're not going to have enough coaches, right? So not only do we need enough coaches, but we need to onboard more than we actually need so that we can have enough trained coaches to onboard the new clients that we're bringing on. So then the fulfillment team had a goal for Q1 to hire 2 to 3 new coaches per month, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why by the time like March came around, they had more than enough coaches to handle any kind of excess volume, just in case we pushed to get this target,
Correct.
right? So they were hiring. We had meetings. I met with I run a weekly executive meeting with them. So we did the planning and then we looked at the forecast and we're like, all right, well, in order to do this, you're going to need this many coaches. Who on the team can own doing the interviews, doing the hiring, do the training and all those things? Because if we decide we're going to crank this, so long as these things are working and performing within KPI and marketing is doing his job, this is an inevitable outcome. It's going to happen. So
Mhm.
let's plan as if this is already a done deal and then build capacity for this to be a possibility, right? Because this is actually what we're expecting.
Correct. So now we're expecting that in April is to stay above a 1 million. So now we have our marching orders for that. So that means I'm increasing budgets daily, as long as staying within KPI. We might work on some new angles, meaning the angles of like just talking to a different person, just to start
Yep.
getting in front of that. Um, and then even noticing because there is two campaigns in one ad account, I can't raise them both together, right? So one campaign is the main dog, like it's the top dog. We do everything to either optimize, adjust, increase, decrease, the whole 9 yards. The
Yeah.
other campaign, which is spending 3 times less, what I found out is if I move them both, this one gets worse if I try to increase. So what I pretty much came to the conclusion is this stays where it's at. It's not going to go up. It's not going to go. It might go down and go back to its original budget, but it's staying there. I'm not trying to optimize anything on that guy. It's there. It's producing bookings. It's not going to do anything other than just stay there. Maybe at one point it ends up getting at a fully KPI and I just shut it off entirely. We just decrease budget. But the main one, we just keep increasing, which is holding steady. So every day it's going up by like $64 every day, every day, every day, every day. And then the other one is still going up by $10 every single day. So it's funny because some people will be like, holy crap, you guys are doing over a million a month and you're only increasing budget by $50 a day, $60 a day. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's
because
kind of what you have to do essentially,
Mhm.
because it's a lot more happening outside of the campaigns. Because the other thing that we need to also dial in is we have to make some adjustments to Charlie in terms of messaging, booking, and then we've got the middle funnel that we ran. All of those middle funnel plays goes through Charlie. So essentially, anytime we need the higher injection of bookings, um, we have agents that we can deploy throughout the pipeline. And then even for April, one of the things that I'm working on planning through is like, what are the things that we could do to drive more relevant engagement? Because we have a lot of leads in the pipeline that are qualified that haven't booked a call yet. So we have to think through how do we nurture those leads and stay top of mind so that when they see content from us or they see the retargeting campaigns or things like that, like we can get more of them to actually take the action that we need them to take, you know?
Exactly, because we can't run, especially with this brand at the moment, we can't run like some type of play scholarship or whatever every like on cadence, like every 2-3 months, because there's not enough space on the bookings because all the paid traffic is taking up all the spaces. So
Yep.
technically we can't do anything with them. So they're just there. But you gotta stay on top of mind, like you mentioned, either that's emails that to make sure they're getting, either that is doing something, as long as they see you, just as long as you're relevant. Like, hey, send them a podcast clip, send them a new podcast, even if it's like a small reactivation like that. I would probably wouldn't do that through SMS because then obviously you get a bunch of
Yeah.
SMS calls. Probably just through an email. Just make sure you're just on top of mind. So when you do hit them with that reactivation, like, oh yeah, I remember that brand. I've been getting this email every day. Then you
Yep.
take action. Mhm.
So that's that. And then the other thing that we need to look at is we need to start liquidating spend because the margins are starting to get compressed. So now we're implementing a downsell for all the DQ'd leads to taking a portion of that service offering and bringing in as a front end entry for leads who aren't ready to commit to the full thing. And then the next layer is going to be planning out like a low ticket funnel. So I already pinged you about that. So we need to build out a sales page and start to think through what that entire sales process is going to look like, from getting people to purchase the low ticket to ascending into a high ticket. So that'll be like the projects that we're playing with this month and getting those things live. And ultimately you want to have multiple layers of redundancy throughout all aspects of the business. So right now, like, we only have one real acquisition method front end, right? Which is the application, right? So next step is going to be, how do we liquidate people who are coming in, which we'll be implementing like today and seeing results next week. And then the final step is diversifying entry points. So we got to get a different way for people to actually come in and enter the ecosystem of the business, so that as we get leads coming in for the front end, they eventually ascend into the high ticket, and then we can retarget the leads that come in from the front end with the direct response high ticket offer, and now it becomes like a full ecosystem that feeds each other. All right.
Yep. And that just goes to show that you don't need all this complexity to make a crap load of money with one funnel. Like, you can get over $1 million a month. And then at that point, you're like, I mean, I need to start looking into some other stuff to try to help the liquidating spend, etc. But if you want to get to 100, 200, 300, 400, 5K, 600K, you don't need all this stuff, right? It's just get one thing to work at a high level, be very good at it. You can make it work. And like how some other people like, do this, do that, do that. You need all these other entry points, blah, blah. Yeah, at some point, but
Yeah, and even then, like, they require time and planning and really carefully thought out sales engine. So I had to meet with their sales team, their sales leader earlier today. Go, if we want to implement this new front end or low ticket, what adjustments needs to be made from sales to enable that to even be possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, all these things have to happen, so let's plan this adjustment out a little bit more. So let's take our time really mapping it out. But what about this option if we're to offer this as a front end to all the low ticket, like all the people who are DQ'd anyways that couldn't book a call? I was like, okay, well then nothing needs to change from the sales team. All they need is somebody from the CS team to be able to do the reviews with these people who purchase this front end, right? Which they're already doing. So we're looking and thinking through what are the low effort, high impact levers we can pull. And then the high effort, high impact stuff just require more time planning, more due diligence, more like attention to details to ensure that once those things are rolled out, it's rolled out successfully and we have everything that we need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets planned out not only from sales reps, but like you mentioned, from the coaches and all that. That gets planned out. Then it comes downstream to marketing and ads and all that. That means the funnel needs to be planned out. Like all this starts to plan out as one instead of like, hey, we're gonna put this up and then you guys can figure that later. Another thing is we're gonna probably create another ad account specifically for this because I've seen it time and time again with other blue chip clients where they try to bring in this low ticket. It messes up with their high ticket stuff. So we're gonna bring in another ad account, and it's gonna be strictly this is the low ticket ad account, and because so it doesn't mess with the current stuff. So there's planning throughout the whole process instead of you just laying out, then everything just gets F's off, and then potentially that could lead to like F this, not gonna do this again, or whatever, right? It's just it needs to be thought out, planned out. It should be like a Q, whatever quarter you're in project that we should probably get to by the end of the quarter type deal.
Yeah. So target for Q2 is going to be to have a front end product fully live and self liquidating. Or at least the first target is liquidating 60% of the spend on the front end. If we can get to 60% liquidation, numbers start to look really nasty on the back end. You know,
nasty as in good.
yeah. So that's gonna be the front target. So that's what we'll be planning on. And hopefully we'll have like something potentially live and gathering some data by the time we jump on this again, and we can have some numbers and some metrics to review and some data to share on how that's going. So it's really, really important in terms of sequencing, getting your high ticket stuff dialed in and getting your sales engine really dialed in first, as far as that goes. And only now are we starting to have to implement something new in terms of front end because of where we're trying to go. So because like we want to lay the foundation to sustain $1 million a month for Q2, but then also have the mechanisms in place to be able to push and get to 2 million a month by Q3, we'd actually put these things in place ahead of time, right? Which is why we're doing the planning and starting to get these things implemented now. Because the goal is by Q3, we've already made all the mistakes that we need to make. We've already figured out what needs to be figured out. We've already optimized all the things that we need to optimize, and then now we can like push and get to that next ceiling.
Exactly.
Anything we miss on that?
No, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Plan, get one thing working at an extremely high level. You can push it pretty high and make a crap load of money off it. Okay, if you want to get to those multiple million a month, that's where all this complexity starts to come involved, but it requires planning. Third, structure in accounts needs to be done. I see so many bad structurally from the lead gen workshop and everything. So structurally stuff needs to be set up properly. And then when it comes to scaling, start scaling small increments every single day or 3 times a week, and be patient because we've tried that aggressive and
it doesn't respond well to aggressively trying to push volume. You just got to plan it out and communicate across the board, right? So if there's changes that need to be made in one area that's going to affect another area, you just got to communicate that and make sure expectations are realigned and there are no surprises, you know.
Exactly. I learned that once. I don't make the same mistake twice. That's why the team has been getting loose throughout the week. Hey, I did this. Hey, I just that. So you guys been seeing it. Like I'm not making that mistake again because I'm not taking this again. So I just go, look, everything's good. I'm not pushing here. I'm not pushing there. I just want you to be aware. Okay. Take you guys to the next one.
So, but I mean, that's why for us, and I'll close out here.
Yeah.
Competence is really, really important, right? So we have our 4 C's for our kind of like championship DNA mentality with our internal company, but then also within our blue chip, right? So we care about the work we do, the people that we do it with, and the people that we do it for. We're committed, we show up, we're consistent, but then we're competent, right? So competence, like you come with skills that you're working and developing, but then we fail intelligently, right? There's 3 levels of failure. You got lazy failure, clinically dumb failure, and then you have intelligent failure. Lazy failure, you try something once, it breaks, it didn't work, and then you're like, it doesn't work. Clinically dumb failure is like you make a mistake and you keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over and over to the point where it's like you eventually figure it out, but by the time you figured it out, it's like scorched earth. Everything has been burned down. All right. And then you figuring out stays with just you. Right. So somebody who's like clinically dumb, they figure something out, right? They just touched fire, they discovered fire, they touched it and figured out that it was hot. A clinically dumb person is going to watch somebody else go and touch the fire and make the same mistake and not even think to tell them that it's hot. Right. Intelligent failure is we make a mistake, we document the learning, we figure out all the observational stuff that we need to about how that came about. And then we pass that training on to the team so nobody else has to make the same mistake again. Right. So perfection isn't expected. We're going to fail, but we want to fail intelligently. And each time we fail intelligently, we're actually dramatically getting us closer to the breakthrough that we need to get the success that we want and get the outcomes that we're working towards. So I think that kind of sums up at a high level how we really operate. And then the last C is we're curiously obsessed. All right. So we constantly want to think through like, how do we make something better? How do we iterate? How do we improve? But we want to work on making the constraints better, right? And not fiddling with something for the sake of fiddling with it. It's like whenever we're making iterations and tweaks, there's always an outcome that we're trying to get or specific problem that we're trying to solve, right? So we don't introduce new variables for the sake of introducing new variables, because then we don't know what's working. We don't know what levers to pull, and we don't know if we did something that broke it. We don't know what we did that broke it because we're changing so many things at the same time.
Okay.
So we'll wrap up there. Overall, I mean, great March. And the plan is to have an even better April and take the findings and implement it this month and make some micro adjustments. And we'll see, hopefully by the time we do this again in May, April was either as good or a little bit better than March.
Agree.